For the past 3 years, Vice Media has been one of the hottest media companies in the entire world. Very recently, Vice Media was caught faking their website traffic numbers in order to increase the amount of money coming into their company as investment. They were also lying to advertisers about how much reach they had. But this isn't unique to Vice Media. This is something that almost every major media and entertainment company does, and it's about high time that it stopped because it's confusing independent creators as to what the right methods are for growing their company and audience. In this video, we're going to talk about lies, damn lies, and the lying liars who tell them. There won't be any snazzy videography in today's video or cool B-roll. No B-roll this one. Running a quick Google search for Vice Media faking numbers, you'll find a number of articles about this topic, and we're not the first to report on it, but I like to think we have a unique slant on it as a company that teaches marketing to independent creators. The entertainment and media industry at large tends to put a whole lot of bad ideas in the heads of independent creators when it comes to growing their audience and building a successful business. This past month, it was discovered that Vice has been faking their traffic numbers for the past 2-3 years, all the while lying to investors and advertisers as to how successful they were. And recently, this has resulted in Vice cutting about 10% of its staff as they continue to not be a very profitable company. Essentially, what Vice was doing is buying up little spammy websites that do a lot of clickbaity advertising and just generally low quality traffic. By buying up these websites, they can include them in their portfolio and report to investors and advertisers that Vice Media has a reach of 50 million hits per month, when in reality, Vice only has 25 million, which is relatively high quality traffic, and this portfolio of sketchy, spammy websites represents the other 25 million. Obviously, all of these website hits are not the same quality traffic, they're not as useful to advertisers, but Vice gets to call it Vice Media. In this way, Vice is padding their numbers to seem more attractive to advertisers and investors, which is something that the music industry has been doing since the 1950s. In the 1940s, the music industry was ruled over by major record labels like CBS Records. These majors, which were usually just offshoots of television companies, had a lock on the jazz and lush pop ballad industry. So people like Ella Fitzgerald and Irving Berlin, they were part of that music industry. Then in the 1950s, a bunch of essentially mobsters got into the music industry and pioneered rock and roll. One of the early innovators in terms of rock and roll and indie labels was Morris Levy of Roulette Records. Morris Levy really pioneered Payola, pay for play, basically inflating the popularity of a given media property in order to make it more attractive to advertisers, investors, and the general public. The general public believes Vice Media is one of the biggest channels because investors and advertisers believe that's true. Well, same was the case for Roulette Records, and in the time there wasn't a very huge appetite for amateurish rock and roll music. What Roulette did was basically make rock and roll the teen craze of the era by paying radio DJs to play these records and claim that they were tearing up the charts. These records were often released that day. They couldn't possibly be tearing up the charts, but radio DJs would say that anyways because indie record label owners, not the big record labels like CBS, but indies like Roulette, were paying them in envelope stuff with cash, drugs, expensive dinners, parties, trips, and even prostitutes. In the 1960s, this practice was illegalized and given a formal name, which is Payola, a combination of the word pay and Victrola, which was a record player at the time. These indie label owners were paying for record spins so that teenagers would actually believe that these records were insanely popular. This allowed these indies to penetrate the media industry, the entertainment industry, and it was beneficial, I guess, at the time because it helped break and introduce rock and roll as a format to the entire world. So I'm thankful that it brought rock and roll to bear, but it definitely created a whole lot of problems. Paying to inflate your numbers or make yourself seem more popular than you actually are is a strategy that is eventually going to crash and burn, just like it is with Vice right now. When you pay to inflate your numbers, not only do you obfuscate the true nature of your popularity, popularity for your audience, but you do it for yourself as well. You can't track and measure your progress because everything is one big lie. So paying to get on this blog, or paying to get this many YouTube views, or paying for Instagram followers are all practices that are going to inflate your numbers but not actually add to the value of what you're building. Same with Vice purchasing all these sketchy websites to pad their numbers. It wasn't actually giving their advertisers more quality traffic. It was just lying to everyone for a short-term benefit. Record labels do this all the time. It used to be in the form of literally paying radio DJs cash, but now is in the form of buying playlists. On Spotify right now, record labels are snapping up playlists from independent curators. They're not rebranding these playlists, they're not re-centralizing them, they're running them as if they were still run by independent curators, when in fact, it's the label telling you what they want you to believe is popular. But it's not just record labels doing this. Spotify is also snapping up independent curator playlists so that they can run them as their own property. Why? Leverage. Spotify wants more leverage with the people who want to be on their platform. If Spotify has all the leverage, it can control the negotiations with record labels when they're relicensing these properties and negotiating royalty rates. So Spotify wants to lie to people, record labels want to lie to people, you shouldn't also want to lie to people. This is how media companies end up crashing and burning when it all comes to a head and everyone kind of realizes, hey, this isn't actually that popular. These days, the same is true for radio. And nothing's really changed. I mean, you really can't get radio coverage unless you go with a major label. That's why you very rarely will ever hear Chance the Rapper on radio. And it's why Macklemore was able to get on the radio in the push of his debut album. When Macklemore hit the scene with the Same Love and the Thrift Shop, you tended to hear those songs on the radio a whole lot, but he was claiming to be independent at the time. But it wasn't the case. Macklemore went to the labels and said, hey, I don't want to sign with you, but I do want your radio promotion support. By leveraging the radio departments at these record labels, Macklemore was able to get on the radio while still remaining quote unquote independent. And this is still true to this day. You will not get long-term radio support, major spins, or playlisting on the radio unless you have the support of a major record label. These large radio conglomerates like iHeart and Clear Channel before them are pretty much the same as the record labels. They all have the same mission. They share a lot of personnel back and forth between them, just like lobbying in Congress. Someone leaves iHeart to go work for a record label. Someone leaves a record label to go work for iHeart. They're pretty much in bed with each other. And the same is becoming true for Spotify. You should closely watch the Spotify space over the next couple of years to see the exact same things playing out in Spotify as you saw with Radio Payola in the 1950s and 60s. We should see the exact same bad behavior that we saw back then. So it begs the question, is this bad? Is it wrong? What are the drawbacks? What are the benefits? It is my opinion that if you're using Payola, pay to play, or just faking your numbers, artificially inflating things to seem bigger than you actually are, it may work in the short term. It may provide you a short-term bump. It may actually get you to the heights of fame, but it's all going to eventually come crashing down, in my opinion, just like it has for Vice Media over this last month. Maybe this isn't the death stroke for Vice Media. Maybe Vice Media is able to continue on into the future, but that would take restructuring their company to be built on the fact that they only have those 25 million hits per month, not 50 million. Because they were building a company around the concept of twice the hits, their whole infrastructure is wrong for the type of business they're actually running, which is why they have to scale down their staff and cut the budget as much as they possibly can. It's because they're running a 25 million hit company, not a 50 million hit company, and by lying to themselves and others about that, they've built the wrong business. And that's definitely, if you're an independent creator, what you should not do. There are all types of great ways to use Spotify and even radio to get real results, real numbers, and actually build your creative business. But there's a lot more wrong ways to do it. After reading this article about Vice Media last week, I definitely wanted to come here and just kind of report my thoughts on it to you guys, because I've been following the close relationship between record labels and music curators for a long time. It's kind of been my life's work. Books like Hitmen, Power Brokers, and Fast Money in the Music Industry paint a vivid picture of how the record industry has always been based on this inflating inflated lie about what is popular and what is not. I'm not here to say that talent doesn't factor into it. Of course, major talents were behind some of these great successes for these record labels. But oftentimes, there was not an accurate view of how well those artists were doing and how popular they actually should be. When you fight the natural order of things and lie about the popularity of things, or pay to get others to lie about the popularity of things, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Because yes, you're effectively convincing the public that this thing is that popular, giving it a nice boost in popularity after the fact, but you're also tricking yourself, your employees, your accountants, and everyone who's investing in your business. I think the more that the entertainment industry trends away from this practice of lying about the numbers, the more that independent musicians seek not to inflate their numbers until they can get a record deal where their numbers will be inflated even more, but by building a solid business, products and customers and good marketing. That's the right direction, I think, and I hope that you think so too. Now, I know this isn't like our normal uploads. I just felt this was an important topic to talk about, so this is kind of like my little testimonial section where I can share these opinions with you and hopefully start a dialogue in the comments section. If this is a topic that interests you, if you have an opinion on it, or if you think I'm full of shit, leave a comment below and please tell me about it. I'd love to talk with you about this topic further. With that said, I've been Circa for Full Stack Creative. This has been our Wednesday upload. If you like this video, please like the video and make sure to subscribe so you can get gear reviews, tutorials, marketing advice, and more on building a creative business. And I will see you on Friday for another video. Peace out, Indies.